What do you make of the gospel-centered movement? Quotes, gospel-centered. The movement that created the Gospel Coalition, Together for the Gospel, etc., synonymous here with Young Restless Reformed.
Yeah, I think that initially it did a lot of good and had a lot of promise, but one of the problems is that words like centered or center are words that are that need to be defined with reference to something.
Mm-hmm.
So central in what way? Central to what? So if we had a vase of flowers, the center of this table, that's central in one way. An axle connected to spokes connected to a rim
Mm-hmm.
is central in another way. It's functionally central,
Yeah.
right? So over time, the gospel-centeredness trained evangelicals to say about various political issues, that's not a gospel issue.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, maybe it's not Christ died and rose again issue, but is it connected to the gospel?
Mm-hmm.
Is the axle connected to spokes, connected to a rim? In other words, is there room for Christian worldview thinking?
Uh-huh.
All right, and what happened? And I don't think that everybody involved in this movement was consciously cooperating with this or advancing this, but they left some doors unlocked,
Mm-hmm.
and they were asleep at the switch in ways they shouldn't have been, because what happened was, in the gospel-centered movement, a number of things that high school seniors get taught at Christian worldview seminars in the summer, a number of those things were put off the table as not a gospel issue. Okay, and so you just had gospel, Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. Well, then enter Black Lives Matter, enter the woke business, enter social justice warrior business, and justice is defined as a gospel issue. And it was really clever, whoever came up with this, because justice is a gospel issue, right? Biblically defined, because the Dekai word group, the righteousness of Christ, our unrighteousness imputed to Christ, Christ's righteousness imputed to us, Christ's sacrifice, all of that is justice, justice issues. So it was a genius move to say, well, justice is a gospel issue.
Right. Okay.
But I've been pounding this drum for a while now. Our contemporary battles are all over who is going to be the general editor of the dictionary, who's in charge of defining terms. So once justice was inserted into the gospel, then people over here defined justice the way Karl Marx would, or defined justice the way Derrida would, or the Frankfurt School would. They define justice that way, and then they import it into the gospel. And this is why a number of the soft reformed evangelical centers have not really put up a fight against this kind of thing, even when there are good men there that we all know don't agree with it. They don't hold to it. They don't agree with it. But they didn't provide us with protection.
Okay. You said this is why a lot of these people put up with it. I think I missed what was it that caused them to not put up the fight when they needed to?
Well, because they were trained to, the biblical conservative way of understanding things like justice were already excluded as off the table, not a gospel issue.
Because they had this truncated vision of what they were supposed to be about.
Yeah, because if you think that, then you're probably a Trump supporter, or if you think that, you're probably some red stater or red pillar. You're red something, and then so once all you have left is the gospel, and someone says, yeah, but justice is a gospel issue, and all of a sudden it's possible to move left to the applause of the cool kids without abandoning the gospel. But it is leaving the gospel unprotected.
So it seems like whenever you attempt some sort of ecumenical kind of move, there's a okay, we're gonna work together on this level, and we're gonna agree to disagree on these others, and and does that inevitably set you up for that kind of compromise? And if so, does that kill any attempt at ecumenicism?
Yeah, I think that it doesn't mean that you will automatically fail at that point, but you will be pressured to fail at that point. So whenever Christians try to do anything ecumenical, the tendency is to go the lowest common denominator. All right. Well, what can we all jettison that makes it possible for us to get along?
Yeah.
Well, then somebody's going to suggest you jettison a bit too much.
Right. So you have a lot of places in which you are working across boundaries.
Right.
Presbyterians and Baptists. You've got a lot of those kinds of things. How do you simultaneously then, in something like that, hold to your distinctives while pursue a real friendship with some of these guys you want to work with?
Yeah, C.S. Lewis makes a comment somewhere, and I think it's very insightful. He said, when people at the center of various communions generally have a much better time getting along with people in other communions than people at the periphery. If I'm talking, I'm much more likely to be able to be good friends with a hardcore Lutheran than I am with a nominal Lutheran. And you'd think it'd be easier with a nominal Lutheran because he's closer to me.
Yeah, he doesn't hold it as vibrantly.
But the hardcore Lutheran knows what it feels like to believe stuff. Right? So he actually he wakes up in the morning knowing what he thinks. Well, I have a lot more in common with that guy than I have with someone who's always on the other hand, or I'm never sure, or at the end of the day, if we were, that kind of stuff is just, I think, conducive to drift.
Okay. Thank you.